Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to this tutorial. My name is Christian and today we're gonna learn Premiere Pro. I'm gonna show you everything that you need to know to create very cool looking videos. First I'm gonna show you this very short clip and then I'm gonna teach you how to do it. I will include all the files so that you can download them and work along with me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and play the movie and then I'm gonna show you how to create it. Okay guys, so let's get started with Premiere Pro. The first thing you want to do is to create a folder. As you can see here, I have created this folder. I have named it Premiere Pro First Project. I'm going to provide a link so that you can also download this folder and work along with me. This way you're going to learn better and it's going to be more fun. Okay, so let's open the folder and I'm going to include my video files and audio files here. Try to keep all the files that you're going to use for your project within this specific folder. Okay, so now we're going to open Premiere Pro. Alright, so once you open it, it will ask you what you want to do. We're going to create a new project. So I'm going to select this one. And then we're going to rename it. You can rename it whatever you want. Okay, and now we're going to save it. So as I said, try to keep everything inside this folder. So we're going to select that folder. Okay, we're going to select choose. We're going to click OK. Okay, so this is exactly what you will see. This is a blank document, a brand new document. Now, if you click on Window, Workspace, make sure you're in editing. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is to import your files and footage into the project. Click on this little arrow and click where it says project and first edit or whatever you named it. Okay, so as you can see here, it is currently blank. There's nothing here. So you can either right click and click import, or you can double click and it will open a new window or a new browser window and you can select all your footage and all your files that we're gonna be using in this project. So for this example, I'm going to select everything except the Premiere Pro file and we're going to hit import. So this is going to import all your files into your project. It's going to take a few seconds depending on how large your videos or your files usually are, but this was really fast. So as you can see here, we have two video files. If you put your mouse on top of it, you can see a short preview about it. Alright, so now we're going to create a new sequence. So in this part, we're going to talk about timeline. This is going to be the place where we're going to be editing most of the time. So as you can see here, it says no sequence. It's currently empty, so we're going to fix that. And there are two ways to create a new sequence. First, you can either drag and drop a video here and it will automatically create a sequence. And that's going to be the method we're going to use right now. I'm going to show you the other method later. So I'm just going to double click my video and this is going to open a new window or a short preview on top. So here you can actually see the actual video before creating a sequence or before adding it to your timeline. And down here you can use these controllers to play or to stop the video. So I'm just going to hit play and I'm going to have a short preview of the video or the footage that I'm actually going to use. Okay, there are a few other buttons that are quite important here, especially the mark in and mark out. And I'm going to show you how to use them. So in this example, I would like to start my video here. So I'm just going to hit mark in because that's going to be the part that I'm going to use for my editing. I'm going to hit mark out, but first I'm going to decide where to stop it. So I'm interested in selecting only the lighting, the actual lighting of the match. So I'm just going to hit mark out here. Okay, so now that you have selected the part of the video that you would like to add, we're going to drag and drop it into the timeline. Now, before you do this, you can see down here that there are two buttons. One says drag video only and the other one says drag audio only. So you can select if you only want to extract the audio or the video, but if you drag the whole video to the timeline, it's going to add both, and that's what we're going to do. Great, so now we have created a new sequence, or in other words, a new timeline. Now I want to show you a different way, one that gives you a little bit more options, and maybe you prefer that way. But anyways, you go to File, you go to New, and then you select New Sequence. And there is a wide selection of presets that you can use for your sequence. So the one I use most of the time, probably 90% of the time, is 4K at 23.9 frames per second. But if you go to settings, you can actually change and modify your sequence settings. But because we have already created our sequence, I'm just gonna hit cancel. Alright, so we already have everything ready. We have our footage imported, we have our sequence created, and now it's time to start editing. So I'm gonna show you different tools that you're gonna need to cut, to edit, to trim, to modify, and to play with your files. So we're gonna be working a lot on this timeline section. Okay, so in this timeline you have video layers and audio layers. So as you can see here, you have three V1, V2, and V3. Those are for video layers. You can create as many as you want. You can play around with these buttons to see what they do. So for example, this one, if you click it, it's gonna block or it's gonna disable your file. Now down here, you will also see some audio layers. You have 3 audio layers. That's where you're gonna insert your music, your sound effects, and any other type of audio. So I recommend you play around with these buttons to see what they actually do. For example, you have the S that symbolizes solo track. So if you hit this one, only that track is gonna play. You can also mute this track if you hit the M icon. Or you can record voiceover if you click on the microphone icon, and so on and so forth. Now, if you put your cursor on top of a layer and you scroll up or down, you're gonna see the actual layer expanding. And here you see this line that represents the volume. So you can drag it up or down to adjust the volume levels. So if we hit play on this video file, you're gonna see that it has no audio. It is completely empty, it's silent. So there's not really a point to keep this audio level or this audio track down here. So we're gonna delete it. So if we click on the audio track and hit delete, you're gonna notice that it will take everything away. So we don't want that. We wanna keep only the video file. So we wanna right click and hit where it says unlink. This is gonna separate the audio file from the video clip, so you can delete them or move them separately. So we're gonna delete the audio file. Perfect. So now we have a clean layer or a clean video clip right here that we're gonna use for our project. Now, just by looking at this clip, I think it's a little bit too long. So I'm gonna show you how to use a few different tools that are gonna help you edit and trim and adjust your footage or your files. So as you can see here in this little section, you're gonna see a couple of tools. This is the selection tool, for example. Now, if you scroll down, there's gonna be one that is very common. This is the eraser tool. This one is extremely useful. So we're gonna click on it, select that part of the clip that you wanna cut. I'm just gonna cut it a little bit here. And then you just select that part and delete it. As an alternative, you can also click at the end of the clip and drag it according to your desires. So if you want to make longer, just move it to the right. If you want to make it shorter, move it to the left. Alright, so now we're gonna move to this upper window. Here it represents what's going on your timeline. So you can hit play, stop, you can change frames, you can go back in frames, and you can just basically see what's going on the timeline. Now, for some computers, if you have a slow computer, this might be really hard for your computer. So I'm gonna show you a trick that is gonna help your computer run better and smoother. So if you see right here, there's a drop-down menu. So this is basically the preview. So you can select the quality of the preview. If you click full quality, it's gonna take more time, more processing power. Now, if you scroll down and you put it to 1/8, for example, it's gonna make it way faster and the quality is gonna be not as good. So you will sacrifice some quality. It's just a preview. It does not affect the actual footage. My preferred way is 1/4. It's a good balance between good quality and speed. If we move in here to the left, you can see another drop-down menu. This basically controls the zoom or the magnification of the preview window. So I set it to 75% and you can really see the details. This is just in case you're editing something that requires a lot of detail. But for now, we're gonna select fit and we're gonna leave it like that. Alright, so now I'm gonna show you something that is gonna be very important. When editing, you wanna be fast and efficient, and using shortcuts is gonna make your work more efficient and faster. So I'm gonna show you how to use shortcuts. So we're gonna go to Premiere Pro, click on that menu, and then go to Keyboard Shortcuts. Here you can see all the shortcuts, you can see which key controls what, and you can adjust and create your own shortcuts. I would recommend that you read these shortcuts. Just try to memorize as much as you can. It's gonna make your life way easier, trust me. So you can adjust and create new shortcuts or change the current shortcuts. And if you move anything by accident, you can always restore back to default settings. Okay, so we're gonna hit OK or cancel for now, and then we're gonna go back to the project. Now we're gonna add another clip to the timeline. That's gonna be the flamethrower clip. So if you double click it, it's gonna open it up here. And now we're gonna hit play to see a preview of the video clip. Okay, so try to look where you wanna select your in points and your end points. This looks pretty cool. The shot was well taken. There's nothing wrong with this shot. So I think I'm gonna use the whole clip. There's no need to trim it. So now we're gonna add it to the timeline. It's quite simple, you already know this. So we're gonna click on the drag video only icon and we're gonna drop it to the timeline. Perfect, so now we have both clips. Now the timeline is a little bit too big, so if you scroll down here and you move this thing to the right or to the left, it's gonna actually zoom in and zoom out on your timeline. And I usually use the shortcuts for this. Okay, so let's see how everything looks. That's perfect. Now there's a blank space. I'm gonna show you how to fix that. And then the second clip kicks in. And that's good. That's beautiful. Keeps going. Okay, I'm gonna show you how to fix this space. So if you right click here, you click ripple delete. That's gonna get rid of the empty spaces that it's between every clip. So now we're gonna hit play again and you're gonna see that it's gonna look better. Okay, perfect. So there was a smooth transition between the first clip and the second one. Well, it was not actually a transition, but it was just there were no black spaces. That's what we don't want. And now we have the second clip, and that's the end of the clip. Okay, perfect. Everything looks so good so far. So now I'm going to talk about effects, how to add effects to your video clips. So if you click where it says effects up here, that's going to bring up the effects panel. So don't think about effects as special effects and movies. These effects are a little bit different, a little bit boring actually. So think about effects as small adjustments and modifications to the video clips. You have video effects, you have audio effects, and video transitions. So if you scroll down, click where it says video effects. And just to show you, I'm gonna grab a random effect. Just for this example, I'm gonna use this blur effect and drop it onto my video clip right here. So once you drop it onto your clip, your effects controller are gonna show up. And here you can adjust your effect according to the needs of that specific clip. So just for this example, I'm gonna drag it to the right and you're gonna see that instantly it's gonna take effect on the video clip. And this will affect the entire clip. So let's say for example that you wanna apply only this effect to a specific part of the clip. Let's say the first 3 seconds, for example. So here is where keyframes are gonna be very useful. So we're gonna activate the keyframes by toggling this stopwatch icon here. We are gonna select 2 specific moments of this clip. So let's say we're gonna create a keyframe here, that's gonna be 1 point, and then we're gonna create another point in the beginning, basically the in point and out point. So I'm gonna drag it and drop it to the beginning. I'm gonna set the blurriness to, let's say 100. That's basically the intensity of the effect. And I'm gonna click this icon or this button to insert a keyframe here. Then I'm gonna move forward to my other point that I marked, the other keyframe, and I'm gonna set the blurriness to 0. So what this is gonna do is gonna transfer from the first point and make a transition to the second point. Okay, so if you look at the screen, it starts very blurry and then it stops on the second keyframe. Okay, perfect. That's basically how you use effects and keyframes. Keyframes are very important, guys. You're gonna be using them a lot. But for now, that's all I'm gonna explain about keyframes and effects. If you wanna delete an effect, just right click and hit where it says clear. Now, before moving to the fun part, I just wanna say one more thing about effects. The effect that I use the most is called Warp Stabilizer. This effect does an amazing job on stabilizing your footage. So let's say, for example, you shot something with your hands holding your camera and your footage is quite shaky. You simply drag and drop this into your footage and it's gonna look very, very smooth. This effect right here, guys, is a game changer. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the fun part, sound effects and audio. We're gonna go back to the editing panel and down here, we're gonna click the audio folder. So we're gonna go down to the left and you're gonna see an audio folder with a couple of files inside. And we're gonna start adding them to the timeline. So the same as we did for the video clips, double click on the file and it's gonna open it in the preview window. We're gonna use the audio file named match strike and light.wav. So close it for now and now you can listen to the entire audio file here. I'm interested on using only the second part, so I'm gonna mark in here and then I'm gonna move the cursor to the end of the audio file. And then I'm gonna click mark out. And then I'm gonna drag and drop it into my timeline. So drop it under the first clip and try to time it according to your video. So you need to match the timing of the audio with the video. So for this, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit more. It's gonna make it easier. And now we're gonna time it perfectly to the video file. So drag it a little bit, make sure it looks right. So I'm gonna go right in the point where you see the spark go on. Okay, that looks just about right. So now we have the video and the audio perfectly synchronized. So what's important is try to make it look as natural as possible. So now we're gonna adjust the volume. So if you scroll up, you're gonna make this a little bit bigger and you're gonna see a very thin line in this green audio file. So if you drag it down, it's gonna lower the volume, and if you drag it up, it's gonna make it higher. Now, when you are working with audio files, there's something very important that you need to avoid. If you see here on the right, there's gonna be a bar that is gonna show you your volume levels. Always try to avoid hitting those red peaks. So hitting those clips is gonna make your audio sound crappy. So make sure you're under those levels always. Now sometimes you're gonna have an audio file that one part is gonna be very high and one part is gonna be very low. And that's the case with the audio file we're using right now. The beginning of the file is quite high, the volume is quite high, and the rest of the file is very low. So we're gonna adjust it. So we're gonna hold Command on the keyboard, and then you're gonna click where you wanna insert your first keyframe. Okay, then we're gonna insert the second keyframe. Now we're gonna grab this part of the clip and then we're gonna drag it down. That's gonna adjust the level of volume. So we're gonna drag it all the way down to 0 and we're gonna test how it sounds. Okay, that's perfect. So now we're gonna add the audio for the second clip. So we're gonna make this a little bit bigger. And now you're gonna click on the folder containing all the audio files. So double click here and we're gonna use the gas torch sound effect for the second clip, which is actually a gas torch or a flamethrower. So we're gonna grab the file and drop it into the timeline, the same as we did with the first file. This time I'm gonna skip the preview and I'm gonna drag it and drop it directly into my timeline. So place it under your second clip and make sure the timing is correctly. So you need to play with the timing here, you need to synchronize it so that the video and the audio look natural. Wow, that looks amazing. Now we have a small problem here. The audio file is way shorter than the video file. As you can see here, the audio file only covers half of the video file. But before we fix that, make sure your volume is correct, and we're gonna have to do the same as we did before. As you can see here, the beginning of the clip is quite high, the volume is quite high, and the rest of the clip is a little bit low. So we're gonna try to adjust it. We're gonna do exactly the same as we did with the first clip. So hold Command on your keyboard and select 2 keyframes or 2 points where you want to adjust the volume, and that's going to give you control over 2 different parts of the audio clip. Okay, the audio levels sound good and everything seems alright. Now there's a problem here. As I said before, the audio is shorter than the actual video clip. So we're gonna right click and we're gonna duplicate it. So just copy it and then we're gonna drag it a little bit to the right and we're gonna paste it. Or you can simply press Command C and Command V to copy and paste. So now we have 2 copies of this same audio file. I'm gonna delete the first part because the first part is the actual ignition of the gas flame. So we don't really need this. So I'm just gonna drag it until here so that that part disappears. Perfect. Now we're gonna put them together so that there is no empty space, and we're gonna see how that sounds. It doesn't sound quite right, so here is where using another layer is gonna be very useful. So we're gonna drag it to the second audio layer down here, and then we're gonna move it to the left. Okay, that sounds a little bit better, but you can still tell that there are 2 different files. Our goal is to make this transition as seamless as possible. So I'm gonna zoom in and we're gonna create some keyframes. Hold Alt and click on 2 different points. So then we're gonna drag the first point a little bit down so that the volume of this clip starts very low and it keeps constantly increasing slowly. And this way you hardly notice the transition between one audio clip to the other. Let's see how that sounds. So now we just have to synchronize the video with the audio. So try to look where the flamethrower actually ends, and that's where your audio should end as well. We're gonna play it one more time, and we're gonna try to find the exact moment where you don't really see the fire anymore. I think it's just about here, right here. So we're gonna hold Command on the keyboard and click where you want the audio to end. We're gonna insert another keyframe here. Most of the time you always insert 2 keyframes. And we're gonna drag the last keyframe all the way down so that there is no volume at all. Beautiful. I want to show you something really quick. If you hit Command R or right click and select speed duration, you can speed up, slow down, or reverse your whole footage. For this example, I'm going to show you what happens if I click on reverse speed, and I'm going to show you the results. You'll see the footage becomes backwards now. It is a little bit laggy because my computer still needs to process the new file, but you get the idea. Okay, let's open that window again, and we're going to remove the backwards effect. I'm going to increase the speed up to 350%. Let's see how that looks. You see the speed is much faster right now. You can also use this to slow it down, but for now I'm just gonna put it back to 100%, and that's the speed of the normal footage. Okay, now let's say you wanna adjust the color or the brightness of your footage. You're gonna click where it says color up here. That's gonna bring up the color panel. And here on the right side, you're gonna be able to adjust how your footage will look. So here you can adjust the temperature of your file. And you can also change the exposure in case your footage is a little dark, you can make it brighter. You can also adjust the contrast and highlights, shadows, whites, and blacks. That's going to give you a lot of control in order to make your footage look better. You can also open another section. We're going to go to the creative section, and here you can also apply the faded film. This is something that is currently being used so much. A lot of films, a lot of YouTubers use this effect. You can also apply filters and LUTs to your film by selecting this drop-down menu here. Something that I also like to use for some of my films is the vignetting effect. So here you can control the amount, and these effects are going to be applied only to the one specific clip that you're currently editing. And those are the basic things that you need to know about color. Now we're going to go back to the editing workspace. And if you see this very thin yellow line up here, that means that your timeline is not currently rendered. So that means that your computer hasn't fully processed the files that you are currently working with. You can either click on sequence and then render in to out. Or you can create a custom shortcut to Shift Command R. And that's going to render your timeline. This is very useful when working with large files, or if your computer is quite slow, or if your footage is looking kind of laggy. Okay, so now that we have a rendered timeline, you can play it and preview it at full resolution. So you can change it to full resolution, and your computer is gonna have no problem playing it at full resolution. I'm gonna fix the first clip. I think it's a little bit too long, so I'm just gonna trim it a little bit. I'm gonna grab the end of the clip and I'm gonna drag it till here, and then I'm gonna repull delete this part. Alright, so now I'm going to show you how to create a transition between one clip to another. So we're going to create a transition between the first clip and the second video clip, right here. So to create a transition, we're going to bring up the effects panel again. This time you can also do it by clicking on this arrow and selecting effects. Down here you're going to see the drop down menu called video transitions. You will see some folders containing a few different transitions. I almost never use these exact same transitions, but I'm going to show you how to use them. They are very simple and very generic. For this example, I'm going to grab the deep to black transition and drop it at the beginning of my second video clip. Now let's see how that looks. Okay, I'm going to show you a different method to create this exact same transition, and that's the method I prefer. I'm going to close this back and I'm going to go to the effects control. Now in this effects control window, this is very useful. I use it every time. You can play with the scale and position of the footage. For example, I'm going to drag it to the right and it's going to increase the scale of the video. You can also adjust the horizontal and vertical position of your video clip. To reset back your footage to the original settings, just click on this arrow and your footage is going to be back to normal. Down here, you can also adjust the rotation of your video clip, but the part that we're going to focus today is this section, opacity. This is very straightforward and very simple to understand. 0% means that the opacity of your video is going to be completely gone, and 100% it means that your video will be displayed at full opacity. Oops, I'm going to toggle animation off. So now we're going to create a transition using opacity. So to do this, go to the end of your clip and we're going to insert an opacity keyframe here. Simply click on the stopwatch icon and this is going to create a keyframe just where you are located in the timeline. Okay, so the last keyframe needs to be at 0% opacity because we want the video to fade down or to disappear at this point. Now we're going to move the cursor a little bit to the left, I think just about here, and we're going to place another keyframe and we're going to set the opacity to 100%. This might seem a little confusing, but it will make sense once you see the results. So we're going to scroll up to expand the layer, and you can see down here that these two dots are the same as the ones up here. you see how it goes from full opacity to zero opacity. And you can adjust the keyframes by moving it to the left or to the right according to your desire. I'm gonna leave this keyframe just about here. I think that looks good. By the way, don't forget to click save every now and then. Premiere Pro crashes a lot, so just be safe. Okay, now we're gonna add the last touches to our project. Click on this arrow, go to project, and open the audio folder again. Then double click on the audio file named groupwhispers.wav. If you click play, you can see a preview of the audio file, so try to select your in points and your end points again. So I think I like this. This sounds very cinematic. You're gonna see the end results are gonna be very cool. So I'm gonna select my in point right about here, and my end points. I think I'm just gonna add the rest of the clip and decide later. So drag and drop this audio icon down to the timeline. And we're gonna place it in the third layer of audio down here in the beginning. Now you gotta be very careful with something. Premiere Pro will automatically replace a file if you put another file on top. Let me show you what I mean. So if I drag and drop my audio clip on top of an existing audio clip, it will replace it. And if I move it back, you're gonna notice that the existing audio file has disappeared. So I'm just gonna Command C to go back. So just be careful with that. Alright, so now we just need to synchronize and make sure the volume levels are okay for this audio clip. So I'm gonna click the solo icon here to listen to this audio clip alone. Well, it looks okay, but I'm gonna make it a little bit shorter and I'm gonna make the volume a little bit higher because it's a very low volume file. I would also like the audio of this clip to fade away at the end, so I'm gonna insert 2 keyframes here. Command click and Command click to insert the other keyframe, and I'm gonna drag the last keyframe all the way down. I'm gonna do the same at the beginning of the clip. 2 keyframes and pull the first one all the way down. Let's see how it sounds. Perfect, everything sounds good. Don't forget to deactivate the solo track. I want to show you 2 more things and then we're done. The first thing I want to show you is how to use adjustment layers. So right click on this part and click where it says new item and select adjustment layer. We're gonna hit OK, and then we're gonna drag and drop this adjustment layer on top of our footage. So on video layer number 2. We're gonna extend it so that it covers the entire footage. Now adjustment layers are super useful. Everything that is under this layer is gonna be affected by whatever effect we apply to this layer. So if you want to apply a filter to the whole section, you can apply it to this layer and it will immediately take effect on the videos that are under this layer. Let me show you what I mean. So click on the color workspace and it's going to bring up the color panel. Make sure your adjustment layer is selected. If you click where it says color correction, you're going to get the option to input or to use some filters. In filmmaking, you refer to a filter as a LUT or LUT. So just to give you an idea, I'm going to apply this LUT and I'm going to preview my footage. You can see that it has changed drastically. But I don't really like it, so I'm going to remove it by clicking none. But I do want to apply an effect. So we're going to go back to vignetting all the way down. And I would like to apply some kind of vignetting to my adjustment layer. I think this looks alright. Okay, so we have applied this to the adjustment layer and everything under this adjustment layer is going to be affected by it. So if you look here, the footage is currently showing vignetting because it's under my adjustment layer. Perfect. Okay, we're done with this. We're gonna switch to the editing workspace. Okay, so now I'm gonna show you how to create a new title. Titles are very useful and very common. By the way, if you can't find anything, just go to help and type whatever you're looking for example, title, and it will automatically tell you where that item is located. Alright, so to create a new title, we're gonna go to File, New, Legacy Title. You can name it whatever you want. For this example, I'm just gonna write down name. Hit OK, and the new title window will appear. Here you can create a new title, you can modify it, you can adjust it, you can do whatever you want with a title. So make sure your type tool is selected, click anywhere, and go ahead and write down your name or whatever text you want to use. We're going to increase the font size by dragging this part a little bit to the right. I think that looks alright. Now we're going to change the font type. I love to use Lato. It's also included on the files of this project. And we're going to select this style. I like to use either light or thin or regular. To center the text, use these 2 buttons. And now our text is perfectly centered. I'm just going to adjust the font type one more time. I like a little bit thicker. So I'm just going to select thin. I'm going to reduce the size just a little bit because it's a little bit too big. Now if you look here on the right, you can adjust the position, the opacity, the Y position, the X position. You can also change the color of your font and you can add shadows and different effects. Okay, so once you're done designing your text, you're going to close the window and your text is gonna appear down here, your title. So drag and drop it into your timeline, try to put it at the end of the last video clip. We're gonna make it a little bit longer and let's see how it looks. We're gonna create a very short transition here just so that the text appears a little bit smoother. So we're gonna open the effects control. We're gonna expand this a little bit just to see more the opacity. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit on the timeline. Now we're gonna hold Command and click to create a keyframe. I'm gonna create another one and I'm gonna drag it all the way down. And this is gonna create a very smooth transition. The opacity is gonna go from 0 to 100 and it will create a very smooth appearance. And lastly, we're gonna add a little bit of motion to the title. On the effects control window, we're gonna adjust the scale of the title. So bring it down to around 78, then go to the beginning of your clip and activate the stopwatch to toggle animation. And that's gonna create your first keyframe at the beginning of your title. Now we need to create the second keyframe. Drag your cursor all the way to the end of your title and change the scale to 2 or 3 points higher. So I'm just gonna put it to 80. Perfect, so we have 2 keyframes and the scale is gonna transition from one keyframe to another, from 78 till 80. And this will create the effect of the text expanding very, very slow. Let's see how it looks. Okay, now in order to make it very cinematic, we're gonna add the widescreen bars. There are a few different methods to add the widescreen bars, and I'm gonna show you the easiest way to do it. So simply go to Google and type widescreen PNG, just to get a transparent image. Okay, go to images, and we're gonna use the first one. You can use any image, just make sure it has a transparent background. Okay, we're gonna save this image to the folder. And once you have it in your folder, simply drag and drop it on top of all the footage on the last video layer. And then adjust the duration so that it covers the entire project. And the last thing that you have to do is to adjust the scale. So go to Effects Control and drag the scale a little bit up until it fits exactly the frame. Alright guys, perfect. We are 99% done with the project. The very last thing that I'm gonna do is to add background music to my project. I'm gonna leave this up to your choice. Feel free to use any music you would like. For copyright reasons, I'm unable to provide this exact same file for you guys, but feel free to use any other kind of music you would like, as long as you have all the rights to use it. But if you really wanna use this song, I'm gonna include a link so that you can buy it and use it for your project. Okay, so I have added the song to the last audio layer all the way down here. I'm just gonna trim it a little bit and make sure it covers the entire project. And now let's see how everything looks. I'm gonna adjust it so that the violins start playing as he starts running. I think just about here, that's gonna be perfect. Looks amazing. I'm just gonna cut this last part of the audio just a few seconds after the title. And I want the audio to fade away. So I'm gonna insert 2 keyframes and drag the last one all the way down. And now the audio should fade away as if it's slowly disappearing. Awesome. Okay guys, we are done editing and now we just need to export and save the file. So go to File, Export, Media. You can also use the shortcut Command M and it will open your export settings. 90% of the times I'm going to use these settings to export my file. On Format, select H.264. Then you can select any of the presets you would like to use. This depends on what are you going to use this video for. I always select either the first option, Match Source High Bitrate, or if you go all the way down, you're going to see a few YouTube presets. And you have different definitions. For this example, we're going to select 4K because those clips were shot on 4K. On output name, you can name your file and select the destination where you want to save your rendered file. I'm going to name it First Edit, Final Version. And I'm going to save it on the same folder as the rest of my project files. Select Use Maximum Render Quality, and now we're going to hit Export. Now your computer will render all the project. It will take a few minutes depending on the speed of your computer. And when it's completed, you're going to be able to see your very first edit with Premiere Pro. Okay, so the export is completed and you can see that the file has been saved on the destination we selected before. And this is how this tutorial will end. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Don't forget to click like, subscribe, let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care, peace. And now it's popcorn time.